Today I'm talking to Matt Breitenbach with Compass in the Hamptons. Since entering his real estate career at 22 years old, he has sold over $1.5 billion in real estate and has over 12 years experience representing celebrity and luxury real estate clients. His most recent notable sales include the representation of Truman Capote's original Hamptons estate and the sale of NBA superstar Jason Kidd's Watermill home. His reputation is for consistently carrying one of the most impressive luxury listing portfolios in the marketplace. Matt was most recently recognized and ranked by the Wall Street Journal as one of the top brokers in the country. Today, we talk about billionaire and high-profile clients, what's most important when working with them. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast is to share knowledge for realtors and raise awareness for Give Back Homes, where real estate professionals work together for social good. Jet Centers Aviation, Bentley Atlanta, Legends Global, thank you for your sponsorship. All right, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. Today we have, with Compass from the Hamptons, Matt Breitenbach. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show. It is an honor to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invite. I love sharing as much as I can. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. So a little bit about you that a lot of people already know who you are. You were introduced to me by Bill Fendel and Telluride, one of the best real estate agents I've ever met, and he feels the same way about you. But you represent clients in the Hamptons. You have you're well known for your luxury listing platform. You have broken records, sold high-end homes for more than asking. You represent celebrity clients, hedge fund clients. You're really working with people of high net worth, high profile, or not high profile, but high net worth, and nobody would ever know they had that kind of money. So that's who we're talking to today, everybody, for those of you who don't know Matt yet. But before we go into all that, because I'm really curious to learn more about such a unique place that so many people would aspire to in business, how did you become a real estate agent in the first place? By the way, everybody, he's been an agent since he was 22 years old.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, everything you're saying, and I appreciate all that. So I got into business at 22. My mom's actually a big superstar agent out in the Hamptons as well, and I grew up around him. My dad's a builder, I spent a lot of my life, in the front seat of my dad's car, looking houses getting built, or driving around with my mom. I got to go pick up these keys, or I got to go do this, and so I was exposed to real estate, also the work ethic that it takes in real estate from a very young age. And, believe it or not, I wasn't the best student in college, and I was decent, but, I came to 22 years old and I always loved the Hamptons. I had a passion about the Hamptons. And, I had an entrepreneurial spirit always, which I think you need in this business. And, I was a little bit of a free spirit in that regard. I didn't really see myself chained to a desk, and I thought it was very interesting. And I kind of begged my mom to be her assistant in 2006 at 22. She actually went on vacation, left me with the whole business. She kind of threw me right into the fire.
Wow.
Major program. She's the number one in the company. And when she came back, I sold the house while she was away, and she loves telling that story. So literally 2 weeks into the business, I ended up doing a $2.8 million deal in Sag Harbor, this old Victorian, 12-bedroom home. Very, I don't know who's familiar with Sag Harbor, but it's kind of a Nantucket kind of market.
Yeah.
Old whaling town, very, very prestigious in the Hamptons. And, at 22, went from a college salary to making a nice commission was a whole new realm for me. Kind of hooked me from the get-go. So, it was also at a time of real estate when there wasn't much in the business to it for youth. It was a much different time. It was pre-million-dollar listing and everything else. All my friends were moving to New York City and they thought I was crazy, but now it's funny, the tides have turned. They're kind of trying to come out to the Hamptons now. So, and out of New York.
Exactly. That's incredible. So, being a real estate agent, your mom leaves you with everything. How did she know you weren't going to drop the ball? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I mean, she she gave me a great platform. And I think it was I worked for her for 7 years before kind of venturing on my own. And I learned so much from her. I always say she's still one of the best brokers I ever, but I think we learned from each other. I think
Yeah.
I gave her business a different platform. Again, with my entrepreneurial spirit, I helped her build out a lot of stuff, email blasting. When no one was really email blasting, I helped us build out a website and all sorts of stuff. So when I kind of went on this, I always, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder always, like later on in my career, that everyone thought I was like a product of her too. So it was part of my reason venturing out on my own and, really trying to show everybody that, I had this own, path.
Exactly. I think that's huge to say, because I know a lot of people with a lot of connections and a lot of money and a lot really successful parents, and that's not what made them. That's often they're not successful as a result of that. They're not able to get their own grit and get in and have the chutzpah to do it, because it did come too easily, and they didn't like get down and do what it took, and you clearly did that, and I think you deserve a lot of credit for that. I was the opposite. I had nothing, but it sure did give me a lot of resistance. It was kind of like an implemented training program that I didn't even like. That was my path to success. But sometimes I think that's awesome, but there's things about that are easier because you're forced to do it. You had this situation where you weren't, but you had the initiative to create and make yourself and your own identity from it. Tell us a little bit about, going out, being an agent, being on your own, things that you overcome, things that you're most proud of. And I want to segue also into the kind of clients that you have and who you represent, but kind of start us with that.
Yeah. I went out on my own in 2014, and it was a big jump for me. I kind of went from this private office with my mom, who was the number one agent in the company, and we were at Corcoran at the time. I was at Corcoran at the time with her, and she's still at Corcoran, but, to going to this little cubicle desk at the other office, or, in another town, and sitting there and, kind of having to reinvent myself, and rebrand myself and, try to come out of this thing. And, I really, at the end of the day, it can be simple real estate though. I just picked up the phone and I started calling everybody in my network. And, when I worked with my mom, I didn't have to do that. I mean, her phone just rang. She was branded. She was doing it for so long. I mean, she just made her, it really was a whole different thing for me. But, I found that grit, like, as you're talking about, and grind and went after it. And,
awesome.
A little later that year, I got a big break because I got this big developer and I was able to get this listing, and I was able to sell it to Jason Kidd, the big NBA, Hall of Famer. And that deal kind of really, when people ask me, like, what was the deal that kind of put you on the map as like kind of a single agent, I think that was kind of the deal. Like, this kid's for real, and I was, that was still in my 20s at the time. And it just really just kind of put me on the map in regards to.
So how did that come about? How did you cross paths with Jason Kidd, and how did he become your client?
It was funny. I actually got referred to him through another client of mine that used to own the Orlando Magic that I was working with, and who I met during a real estate deal that was actually working with another agent, but he really liked me. So after we bought the house, we kind of stayed in contact, and he was like, Jason's gonna be looking, whatever. And actually Jason had got referred somebody else already. But what the funny thing about the whole situation is that he actually ended up buying this house that I was marketing, even though I had got referred to him, and we kind of hit it off. And when he bought that house and we did that deal, and there was a lot of press on that deal. And the bigger press actually came 2 years later. I mean, one, I got him a fantastic deal on that house, and 2 years later, I ended up just reselling it for him. Made him $2 million on the return on that. We sold it for $7. Yeah, so 2 years later, we sold it for $7.2 when he got traded to Milwaukee. Wow. And it was we had become friends during the whole process, and it was funny because right before he decided to sell it, he got traded. He actually hit me up and he was like, Matt, I want to upgrade. And I was like, all right. So we're looking at like $10 million houses. And I'm watching ESPN one day, and next thing you know, the thing comes through is that Jason Kidd traded to Milwaukee Bucks. And I was like, oh my God, no. We're looking at $10 million houses. What's going on? But then, at least it was far enough away that he wanted to sell the house. And, it just shows grit too, I think, in real estate too. Like, follow back up with people. Maybe you don't get that client, but kind of staying in that sphere. Yeah. And that's, with Jay, I was really bummed that, but it was just funny how the universe worked or whatever. he ended up buying the house that I was actually marketing, even though he ended up,
that made
working
you look
for
like
the
a
broker,
superstar. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, basically, you did both sides of that deal.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. So, what is the difference between, and even between, so you represent a lot of guys, you've got the $1 billion clients, you've got these celebrity athlete clients, and I'm sure you have more traditional clients. What would you say is the difference in those clients and how to handle them and what's important? And how do you win the business and how do you establish that level of trust with people who are so kind of inaccessible?
I think, dealing with the ultra high net worth, I deal with a lot of, high end hedge fund guys and private equity guys. And like, I always joke, like if you watch the show Billions, a lot of those kind of guys, right? They're very frequent in the Hamptons, right? And I think you have to handle those guys the same way you would handle a celebrity or an athlete, right? And I think I always tell the guys on my team that are up and coming, I was like, you can't broker these guys. Like, don't try and you can't sell them. They're too smart for you. And you just got to be genuine, integrity. You got to be honest. And I always had a saying, which I learned, I actually heard an old school broker and I stole it from, was keep it simple and keep it honest. Right. And, try to be as direct. And you got to look out for them. And you can't be like coming off like you're looking for a commission or whatever. You got to be looking, out for their best interest. And one of the kind of moral concepts of my team is we're trusted advisors. We're real estate wealth advisors. And just as the financial advisor, is looking out for someone trying to buy $2-3 million worth of property, of stock, we'd be, if you're trying to buy property or invest or whatever. And I think it's an exciting time to work in, especially the athletic celebrity sphere, because I think especially a lot of the sports guys, want to, they want to invest in real estate. They love real estate. It's a really hot topic. I remember I met EJ Manuel at a party who, used to be the quarterback for the Raiders. And he was like, it's funny. He's like, he's talking to me and another friend of mine. He's like, it's funny, you guys, who's a business guy, but not a real estate guy. And he was like, it's funny, you guys all want to be us on the field. He's like, we're kind of like want to be you guys. Like, we want to be investing in deals and buying stuff and investing in real estate and everything else. So it's funny, even look at a guy like Kevin Durant, he's out in California with all the Silicon Valley stuff. He's investing in all sorts of companies and things too. So, it's a very hot topic right now, but I think dealing with these guys, if you have the chance to, it's a very much a referral business too. And I think if you have the chance to get into that sphere, and if you don't have the chance of maybe running into them or getting referred one of them early on, I think it's kind of hanging out where they hang out and trying to get into some of those networks where you're going to get that.
Because I've had a few baseball players, NFL football players. One of my nicest clients ever was one of the meanest guys in the NFL and highest paid and the most kind person, like watching my schedule, thanking me, turning lights off. I mean, amazing guy. But I say that to say, for me, it has come from other agents and it has come from wealth advisors. Their wealth advisors come to me because they know they'll like me. They know we'll get along. I'll keep it authentic, keep it real, be discreet, all that good stuff. And also wealth advisors, because it comes back to, keep it simple, keep it honest. And, I'm not going to be in it to push them to buy and sell. Did it one recently. And I'm like, I think you're spending too much money. And he's probably not. But like, just so you know, in Atlanta, in that neighborhood, for what we're doing, you might get your money back, but you might not, because this is not the Hamptons. This is Atlanta. And Atlanta's a great market, and there are a lot of opportunities in Atlanta, don't get me wrong, to spend a lot of money, get a return, but everybody knows it's how that can go. But anyway, back to you and your experience kind of off of that. Where do you develop those relationships again, because you're in those circles already?
I said, like, JC Kidd put me on the map for that. And I think I got kind of, I always say you kind of do one deal with one of these guys or you become a good source for people. That's why I think your reputation as an agent is so, you got to kind of, I always tell my team too, like, you got to follow up with people. You also got to follow through, you have
follow up and follow through,
make things happen. And, get them a return or just showcase your value. as an agent, as an advisor, giving them an honest opinion and helping them out and just, being responsive and being on top of things and everything else. And I think it's going to create other business from that, because they all talk and it's just so much referrals, especially I know the hedge fund guys, they're so much into their confidentiality. Right. And that's a big thing too. Like, I think, having the reputation that as soon as you do a deal, you're not immediately, going to page 6, and saying, hey, just, sold this guy a house or whatever.
Yeah. And
having that reputation, I think you can promote, but it's being very conscious of your brand and how you promote and everything else, So, it's going to spawn other business though, just, being on top of your business for sure.
How much of your business comes from referrals and relationships and doing a good job for one guy, and then they all have, you've got these guys with a tight network that are referring you to their friends, and how much of it comes from how important is advertising, marketing, and positioning yourself for your business?
I think I think this business is a referral business. I think your network's your network. And I always tell my guys too on my team, like build your network. That's your power base. That's everything. Like I would say, actually, to be honest with you, it's probably like over 80. My referral network is that's everything to me, from clients to past clients to brokers. I believe so heavily in the broker to broker referral, which you touched on. And I think, it's such a, just to make those relationships. Like I go into New York City from the Hamptons a couple times a month. And like, I was just at HQ at Compass just 2 days ago and hanging out on the 11th floor there and just meeting agents and introducing myself and everything else. And
how was that, by the way?
That's amazing. It's it's an incredible ecosystem. It's an incredible vibe there. It makes you want to go take over the world because there's just so much innovation there.
What is the floor that I've been but the floor where all the engineers, like you've got like 2
Oh yeah, it's cool. The conference rooms on that, I forget the number, but I know all the conference rooms are named after like Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and stuff.
So cute. I know, it's so much fun.
So but I think for me, it's a lot of referral, it's so much referral and working those relationships, especially with brokers. Like, if you're an agent out there, go make those brand relationships for yourself. And again, like if that, that's something where you're following up with that agent and trying to get that referral. But when you get that opportunity, like make that happen, make it a priority, make that happen, because they're going to want to refer to you again,
Well, exactly. And also I think it's important that, I don't know if you do this, talking about agent referrals, because obviously you and I do a lot of business with other agents, is when I have a client moving to San Diego, for example, or another market, I always make a point. It's good there's 2 things. It's good for business to meet the agent on the other end, because back in the day when I didn't think this way, which I'm embarrassed to admit, you often had the challenge of the agent on the purchase or the sale of the list. Usually it's, if you're the listing agent, the agent they're using to buy is actually trying to refer them an Atlanta agent the minute they get frustrated with you. So if you develop that relationship with that agent in the other market on the front end and get to know them, know what they're about, find the opportunity to send them more business, and they'll do the same for you. And now you've shown them the opportunity in working with you and what a great agent you are. And you can co-op's the wrong word, but you can work together to understand, here's what's going on here. Here's the deal we're doing. Here's the transaction. Here's how things are unfolding, so that making sure they're on top of timing for my clients in the market that they're moving into.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really well said. I think it goes back to that trusted advisor stuff. Like, for me, like I don't have as much relocation, but I do know that like my guys, like I call them like feeder markets to the Hamptons, because it's a luxury market, like Greenwich or New York City or Miami or Aspen and also LA. Like, and now we're getting a lot of Texas people here too, but,
interesting.
Wealth, the over 0.001%, they kind of that money travels in similar areas. So it's also being a trusted advisor. Like, hey, if you're buying a ski house, I'm here for you, and putting that out in your brand that you can help you everywhere. It's kind of a full of how you handle your business, but also kind of what you perceive and how you perceive it in your newsletter or whatever. If you do need help elsewhere, I'm here for you to help you out. And I think it goes into a larger concept too of being empathetic to your clients and listening to them, and not just trying to sell them or oversell them or whatever, but listen to what their needs are, where they're going, what's going on, and just being good.
So you just said something really like simple. I love like, keep it simple, keep it honest, but so important. And a lot of our listeners know this, but we always like to be reminded, and but anyway, is that listen, because especially you tell me, because you have a lot higher net worth clients than I've worked with, but in working with clients, I think I'd love to know your thoughts on this, but mine has always been, what's up with all these training programs in real estate about scripting and calling people 33 times a year and so forth and so on? That does not establish rapport and trust.
No,
that's like stalker mentality and stalker behavior. It's developing relationships. And when you're in front of people, the people that you're working with are people that everybody wants to be in front of and everybody aspires to have as a client and work with, or they think they do. And those people don't need someone pitching and selling and pushing them. They need someone they can trust and who can hear and listen and empathize and understand them.
No, totally. I think I always kind of say, like, I try to be like the anti-broker, like, and I've been around the business for so long. Like, I feel like it's the only career I've ever had. I've just grown up around brokers, and I've taken things from different agents, and I've observed so much. But like this point in my career, though, too, I think you nailed it. Like, too, it's just you just listen to your clients, and especially when I'm dealing with these guys, they're, like I said, I deal with a lot of these late 30. There's a lot of new money coming to the Hamptons, and it helps me in a conference because I think we market a lot to that new luxury buyer. But we have these late 30s young family kind of hedge fund guys, right? And you can't broker them. You can't sell them. They're very smart. They're extremely smart. And actually, like, there's this whole perception of these guys, right? That they're like Wolf of Wall Street, like stockbroker with a 3-piece suit.
Yeah.
And they show up in the richest client I have. I can't say his name, but he's worth $6 billion. He's 38 years old. And I showed up, he had a backwards hat on, and he's wearing like shorts. And I'm like, what? And he's at this $30 million oceanfront in his like bathing suit with a backwards hat on. And I'm like, but these guys they're a different breed, and you can't come at them. You're trying to like jump into a house and do a backflip and tell them to buy it. They're not gonna. It doesn't work.
It's
a lot of
they're just So I have to share it. You're gonna love this story, and then you can elaborate more. Do you know Shen Schultz in Malibu?
Yeah.
So he's got this great story. I forget who it was, but he's showing this property, and he used to own a carpet cleaning company in Malibu. And Shen decides he's going to start selling real estate. And he's got this great story about how this client I don't know if it was a client yet, but I think it was his listing, I think $20 million listing. And he's like, let me show you. And he's like so excited and showing the house. And he's like, I was like really excited, and I wanted to work hard and be there and tell him where the fireplace was. And the client looks at him and he says, Shen, can I give you some advice? And he's like, sure, what's that? He's so funny when he tells it, because he's like so like revealing all of his like, he's just so like put it out there. And he's like, he's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, I need you to be quiet. I make about $1 billion a year. I don't need you to tell me what I do and don't like. I need you to be quiet and let me look at the house. And when I have questions, I need you to have the answers. And he's like, got it.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's exactly kind of I think what it is. I think, you got to show your value to them, obviously, but I think you got to be very touch and feel. And it's a great, I don't know if you've touched on your podcast before or whatever, guy that really changed my whole, really eye-open to it. I heard him speak like maybe, 3-4 years ago, was Chris Voss. And, that Never Split the Difference book, I'm telling you, man, like that really changed I think my relationship, and also
you have no idea what you just said to me. Like, that is my most, I need to shut up and let you finish. Isaac's over here like holding it back. I love that man. Like, you have no idea how much I love him.
No, he's incredible. And I like his book, and
oh my God.
I read it, and then I wanted to go through it again. So I drive a lot. Like, I'm in the Hamptons, or we're kind of a country market. So like, you're kind of in and out of the office, and you're driving, and I'm running to appointments. I started listening to it in the car on audio, because like, it's just such an incredible thing. It's just really got me, it really flipped my mindset to start thinking about what my client needs. And even negotiations, like seeing why someone feels they are, what position they're in and why they feel the way they do is such a powerful thing, and then working back from where they are to where that is a pretty amazing thing,
So you have to know there's not a show that there are few, since I read that book, I bet you Shen was one of them. 15 people told me to read Never Split the Difference.
Yeah.
I'm like, must be a good book.
Yeah.
I read it. I think I'm on my 6th round.
Oh, it's amazing. And because every time you get it, you start picking stuff up, and there's so much there that you have to take notes from it. But I'm telling you, I tell the guys on my team, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, like, go listen to him, go find him online, watch his stuff. He's got a great blog too.
He's
the jam, man, for sure. He knows what's up.
So everybody, March 22nd, he's going to be in Atlanta. I'm hanging out with that guy. Like, I'm not kidding you. I actually am. I'll tell you more offline, but I'm going to be at his event. He's actually got me doing a quick speech on Friday because I have since made a point to make friends with him because he has literally, people laugh at me. Were you at Compass when did you come to Compass?
I just celebrated my year anniversary a few weeks ago, end of January last year. So
were you in LA at the?
Yeah.
Right. And then we got to get back to you, but seriously, everyone listening, I'm so glad you brought him up because but it's back to your point. I met him. It was awesome. I was like a kid meeting Justin Bieber. I was losing my mind because he's so amazing. And I like, he knows who I am now because I don't let him not know. I do stalk him. I don't stalk my clients. I just stalk Chris Voss.
You're following up. It's good. Yeah.
That's it. But that book, what you just said, it's just, for me, it's, the book taught me about, as salespeople, it becomes our paradigm that our job is to convince people of things, or our job is to tell people what we know and they don't know. That is not our job.
Totally.
Our job is to ask people questions in a way that the truth reveals itself. And when you're negotiating, to ask things in a way that it reveals the black swan, the things that we don't know and we need to know, and do it in a way that the client, like you said, knows you're listening. It has you ask questions in a way that you're empathizing and handling people's emotions so that you can help diffuse their emotions, because the minute they go to the place that's not happy and negative, they're not thinking clearly. So whatever you want to do, to convince, and what you have to stop. You have to stop right there. The minute they're not agreeing, they're raising their voice, they're not okay, is the minute that you've got to hear where they are and say things so that they respond to you, that's right. And until they're getting to that's right, forget the whole, nothing in the world matters except that you hear what they're saying. And when you hear them escalating, that's the time that you need to be quiet and listen. And when the time's right, say things to them that they can hear you and know that they're going to say that's right to you. And when you do that, it forces empathy. Yeah. As an agent, you can hear somebody and you're like they might make $1 billion a year, but they're an idiot, right? Yeah. That's an agent. That's our habit, because we're realtors. We sell 50 houses a year. What do they know? Yeah. But they have the money. It's their deal, their situation, their things, because we're thinking that in our mind. We don't know, and we're not aware that we need to know, and opening our eyes to, that are going to kill the deal, kill the relationship, kill all the future referrals, until we pause, hear it, empathize, diffuse that emotion, get them back in that positive frame of mind, so that when you're in a positive frame of mind, you are 31% more, I forget what is Chris Voss's quote about, you're 31% more effective, or your IQ goes up when you're coming from a positive place. Until your client's in a positive place, anything you tell them, to them and their mind, is just verifying to them that you're the idiot that they already think you are right now.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, anyway. I love him. He's changed my whole.
Me too.
How I do a lot of things, and I think even if you're an agent, you're listening to this, I think even if you just want to start small and just start learning some open-ended questions and asking more questions, which is one thing that I started doing a lot more, is just asking, how do you feel about that, or what's what makes you think that, or just
tell me more. Right.
But it helps you out in any negotiation. Like I tell the guys on my team too, be asking questions. And if you're speaking too much, there should be some moments, obviously, that you're taking the floor and anything, but, listen to them, open it up and keep that conversation going. Like, especially if I'm ever in a tough negotiation, which I learned from Chris Voss too, like keep them on the phone, and start getting that information, because you want to understand their perspective. You want to understand why you want to understand why they won't go from, from 8 million to 8.5 or whatever it is, or whatever that is, if it's 800,000, whatever it is, but like why they won't move. What's really
right. And the way to why is to never ask why, because the minute you say why, you're asking them to defend themselves. And once they get defensive, I always say in business, never be defensive or desperate, which pursuing and convincing is desperate. And asking somebody why puts them on the defensive. But when you say, hey, what's going on? What is it? Like I have an example. I had a situation where I had someone who didn't want to put a sign in the yard. And naturally you said, well, why? But that gets them defensive. And when they're defensive, they become negative, and if they're having to defend themselves, they can't trust you. But if you say, it sounds like there's a lot of importance about not putting the sign in the yard. What is it that's important? I'll never forget this. I'd never met these people in my life. And they turned around and literally disclosed and confided in me something that they didn't want anyone else to know about that was going on in their life. And it was able to unfold that black swan, what we don't know that's going on in a situation. I could have gone in there and told them about how smart I was and how great I was and whatever, but that people don't need that.
No, they don't want that.
They don't. That's not what, that's brilliant. I just love that. So what is what's that?
If you want to work with higher end luxury people, if you want to work on that high end sphere, like you need to master that, because, these, I think, like, I noticed it, my high end clientele, like, if they don't feel like I'm on their team, if they feel like they're getting sold, if they feel like, and I think major things, if you see studies on extremely wealthy, high net worth individuals too, like, they're worried. There's a lot of fear in that. They're high targeted people. They have like a little fear, and you got to kind of calm a lot of that and get inside there. But once you kind of get in there, you're in. But
exactly,
it's amazing. That's an amazing story, and I think it's just amazing. It's awesome.
That is one of like we would have to be here for 3 hours, and I would keep thinking of more. More and more, from revealing black swans to people getting defensive and mirroring. And there are situations where I've literally listened and said 3 words and went from someone being defensive and upset because of what the reaction to the situation, to realizing by my mirroring it, giving them the ability to pause and hear themselves and look at the situation and understand that I'm listening. I'm listening. I hear you. I'm not here to convince you or persuade you or sell you. But I can't say that, and you don't need to say that.
Yeah, I think these things too come up a lot more at the end of deals. And one thing I've noticed in my career, and I've learned this from my mom, actually, I was working with, is like the best brokers and the ones that do the most business and make the most money, the big bucks. And I tell my team this too, are the closers, the ones that know, like, when the deals get tough. Like, I think these kind of techniques, and I tell my team this too, like we make a verbal offer. Okay, we have an offer and acceptance. Great. And I always joke with them. I was like, okay, now the fun starts, right? There's something wrong in the contract. There's this or that or whatever. People get so emotional at that stage. Someone doesn't want to let go of their house. They're emotional. They lived in there for 25 years or whatever. And it's these kind of techniques at that point. Sometimes someone comes in the house and I always say it's like half emotion, half, logically investing sometimes. But like maybe it's like it's buying a car or something, right? You're excited. Someone comes in the house. They're just going to buy it, no matter what you say. But it's like as an agent, when you get through into that contract stage, at that ending stage, when you're trying to get that thing signed or you're trying to get that thing over the finish line, that's when these kind of, I think, techniques are really, really come into play, especially when you're dealing in the wealthy sphere,
especially.
To kind of understand their perspective. And like you said, talk them down. Like I've used his stuff, Chris, with people, I've had clients yelling at me about this, about a contract and this and that. And just say, it's like, it seems like you feel that, you're, whatever. And also, it does. It's like, it seems like you're upset, and all of a sudden, like, you kind of label the emotion or whatever.
That's labeling.
And they roll it back, and it's amazing what it does.
Right, really, because it's once you can get people to say how they feel or label it, there's scientific evidence, and he has so much knowledge on why these things work. even though a lot of them, he talks about how he discovered it before people knew why or that it worked. He just knew that it did work. But labeling people's emotions, when they can label it and know what it is, that it's like you look at it and name it, that actually makes it go away and diffuses it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. So
totally.
I just I almost am sorry. I'm like, oh my God, especially because Isaac's back here laughing. Like,
I love talking about him. I anyone who knows me knows I preach him around to people that they definitely got to pick him up, especially real estate people looking for something to read or whatever. I said, pick up that book for sure. You know?
Me too. So Bill Fidel told me that, because Bill knows how much I love Chris Voss. And he was with me when I met him, and he's laughing at me because he's like, Jere, you're like losing it. I'm like, because he's so awesome. But I mean, just like I could meet famous people. I could meet like whoever. It's cool. Chris Voss, I was like, because he's changed my life and he's saved people's lives with what he's just amazing to me. Sure. And I tell everyone, you are doing yourself a disservice if you don't read that book at least once. And if you read it once, you will read it again. It's such a great book.
Sure.
But anyway, see, we get on that Chris Voss train. But for you, and going back to that, because I've talked so much about it, because I get so excited. What is there, like, you kind of said it, but is there anything else you would add to that? Or actually, what is your best example? Do you have a story that you can share of kind of, I remember the first time I tried some of that stuff, I was like, there's no way this is going to work. And it did. And I was like, wow. And then I understood it. Do you have any kind of examples like that you want to share with us or could share with us?
No, it's actually the first time I heard him speak, and it was right after I finished, and I actually walked out to the hallway of where I was going, and I literally was like, I'm just going to try this out. And I called a client, and it was a property that I could not get a price reduction on for a year, and I just one of those properties was carrying and marketing. And, I was like, let me try this. And I tried to use a few of his techniques that it was fresh off of, what I just heard. And literally I got a $500,000 price reduction on the property of a property that I couldn't get moved in months. And
you got to give us a play-by-play.
And I grabbed Chris on the hallway, and I was like, I haven't met you, man, but I just let you know. And he I didn't even know how to take it, because I kind of came up to him like,
so you met him and told him?
Yeah. And I was like,
you could speak in complete sentences when you met him, unlike me. So,
yeah.
So what did he say?
So yeah, he was just kind of like, he's kind of a chill guy. So he's like, whatever. But it just was like, it kind of hit me. And then I literally power read through that book, and, the next, month, just power through it, going back through it.
So tell us, or what would you mind sharing with us? Like give us a play-by-play of that conversation and how it unfolded to make that happen after a year of not being able to get that price reduction.
It was like, again, this is a couple of years ago, but I don't remember some of the exact things, but again, it was like just getting in their corner. It seems like, you guys are emotional about the house and you don't want to bring it down. And I feel, Chris talks about saying, I feel like if we move it here, I can get it. And it just comes into that positivity, like you said. I can get it sold, but this is kind of like, and it's kind of may go into a different thing. But what I use when we're switching gears a little bit, to the listing side of the business, which I do a lot of. I'm carrying I usually carry a portfolio around $150 million worth of listings. That's what I have right now. And we got I've been growing since I came to Comp. It's great. I got another $100 million in the pipeline, and we're trying to scale some. But I call it solution-based selling on the listing side of things, and really thinking and that's why, being very honest with your clients and saying, hey, listen, maybe we do really need to stage this, and having those tough conversations. And I think some of these techniques help you really have difficult conversations that need to be had, because you can't hide from the truth sometimes.
And setting that expectation of solution-based selling, okay, here's our problem. Let's focus on the solutions. What to do with
I'm just taking over another property in Southampton, that another broker team had. And this is a $20 million property, and we're relaunching it a little cheaper. But in order to, when I was looking at the comps and looking at the market analysis, I'm like, in order to compete with the other new construction in the market, we need to, and this isn't new construction, we need to kind of, we need to stage this thing. I was like, this house is, I was like, it seems like a hospital in here, guy. I was like, there's no, we need to have people have an emotional experience. We need to stage this. By even that Compass Concierge program, even on a level a $17-18 million house.
Did y'all do the Compass Concierge for that house?
Yeah, we're going to stage
That's
it.
awesome.
And then we're going to relaunch or rebrand it. But getting in that mindset, like, okay, here's the issue. This is why buyers are probably feeling that way. And it comes back to empathy in real estate and thinking of why people maybe aren't buying something or why this house isn't really selling. You know, and not just going in there and blowing smoke that you just want to get a $20 million listing. But obviously, let's think of like why it's not selling.
Yeah.
And how do we get it sold? And I'm telling you that those clients, especially when you go on a listing pitch, you know, are going to really, really appreciate, you know, that mindset of how do we get that.
Solutions driven. Yeah. That's awesome. All right. We're running out of time and you've got things to do. So I'm still going to ask you, do you have like 5 or 6 more minutes for?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, awesome. I think I know the answer to this one, but what is the one book that's most impacted? This is, I always ask this, but I want to hear it again anyway. Unless there's another one. What's the book the book that has most impacted your business and your career and your life?
Man, it's tough. I mean,
it's not Never Split the Difference.
It is. I mean, that is a very, that's very, very big one. You know, it's a very, very big one. You know, I always tell guys too, not to go down a bunny hole here, but I think of reading is so important. I think as an agent and trying to like educate yourself and master your craft and always be reading. And I tell my team this all the time, like, you know, educate yourself and read and listen to these podcasts and just kind of get your stuff. I mean, I'm a big Tony Robbins guy. I love a lot of his stuff, and you know, Wake the Giant Within, some of his stuff has been really impactful. And again, I think, but I would say Chris Voss. I think for real estate specifically, Chris Voss has never Split the Difference would be my main, you know, book that's really changed. I think my whole outlook on negotiating for sure, like how to negotiate. Because I do a lot of really for my team. That's kind of where I come in. It's made me such a better negotiator in my life, you know.
So this isn't in the final 3. I'm going to ask you because we didn't touch on it, and I meant to. But your team, what is your team structure, and how many people?
Well, Compass has really helped me out. When I came here, it was just me and kind of, you know, my right hand guy, this guy Kevin Getty, who came over with me from, you know, 2 other companies, and he kind of started as my assistant. I kind of groomed him the way I kind of, you know, he was, you know, I was groomed by my mom. And we've kind of been growing. And when I got here, I wanted to grow a team. And I called, you know, Gordon Golub, who's the senior managing director in New York for the New York region. And I was like, Gordon, like, you know, what should I do? And he goes, you know, hire an operations person first. He's like, you're only going to go as far as your operations person or your assistant. So I hired an assistant. We have 5 people now.
Wow, 5 people in a year.
We're going to be 6 in May because I got a marketing person coming on full time. But I have an operations director, and then I have, you know, I kind of set it up a little differently. I have a listing portfolio manager because I have a large listing base of, like I said, $150 million worth of listings. So her sole job is to manage my listings, you know, make sure those things get listed right, put those photos online.
I actually have the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have an
operations person and a listing manager.
Yeah, and then I basically have a listing portfolio team. Basically, like. I have 2 sales agents underneath her that just focus on, you know, open houses and, you know, do all those showings and stuff like that. And then I turned, you know, my right hand guy, Kevin, into basically my buyer's agent who just handles any buyer or rental that comes in. He handles and anything that comes from the listings, you know, so I kind of, you know, his focus is on conversion and converting those buyer leads and helping me also. He'll help me too. He's the one guy I trust that I can take out, like I take him with me on appointments sometimes because, you know, especially with a big client, so I can sit in the front seat, we'll throw him in the back, he'll drive, and I can kind of focus on selling and working with the client, listen to him.
So when you're taking buyers out.
Yeah, so he kind of helps me on any buy side stuff, especially with my own business. And then we have this marketing guy coming on.
So he's basically the guy, he's kind of the driver and drives you guys around, helps you see properties, and he's...
Yeah, when he's with me, and then he'll take his own buyers out and do all that kind of stuff too, and does his thing, and any kind of buyer lead that comes from the listing, and then, you know...
Awesome. So you've got director of operations, you've got a listing manager, you've got 2 people on the listings team doing open houses and showings.
Yeah.
And then you've got a basically a buyer's agent who helps you with your buyers and has some of his own buyers. And then number 6 is you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then, you know, we're going to have this marketing person coming on too, which is going to be big. help out. I think just take over that because that takes a lot of my time. And I think it's a big thing. I think as an agent, you gotta, I think the best agents do know how to brand and they kind of have that marketing spirit in them. And I've always loved it, but it takes a lot from my day. So I'm trying to have that. And I kind of outsource my social media work. I mean, we got a great presence on social media. I think
yeah. Well, we didn't even touch on that. You've got a great social media digital platform. We haven't touched on that. We may bring you back if you'll give us your time.
I would love to. I'd love to.
Would love that. Awesome. Because I would love it. And we got to let you get back to your day. But the last thing is, if there's one thing, or if we were going to only take one thing away from this interview, what would you have that be?
Take one thing from this interview?
Yeah, the one thing that we need to make sure we remember, if we were only going to remember one, which I promise you I won't. I'll remember Chris Voss coming
I
up.
Think I think going back to like listening to your client and being empathetic to your client and their needs and their wants and their stuff and and how you approach them and and maybe I add two things to that, not to destroy your question, but I think keep it simple, keep it honest is a thing I heard from this old school broker when I was like 25 years old in this business, and something I still say is just like, I kind of like, it's one of those things you got to say to yourself.
Yeah.
When maybe you're stressed out or whatever, or you're in a tough negotiation, I'm like, Matt, just keep it simple, keep it honest. Again, having those tough conversations.
Like your mantra, keep it simple, keep it honest.
Yeah, like when you're in that tough conversation, right? Or like I think sometimes too, which I've learned, like if you're delivering an offer, like believe in it, come in there and be like, you know what, and be direct and don't just dance around and be like, well, wait, because they're going to sense that. And like come and say, hey, listen, cut right to it, here it is. And just direct and honest and simple and say, this is what it is. Yeah. And then like, what do we do with this, right? And then you can kind of go into the empathy of that. But like, just I do a lot of fast people too. Sometimes I got like a CEOs and everything else. You got like 20, you got like 15 minutes at a time. You got to move fast. That's Robert.
Exactly. Awesome.